Welcome to this two-part video from the Carleton University Library on primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. In Part 2, we identify these types of sources on a course reading list. As we know, scholars often talk about three types of sources that they use for their work: primary, secondary, and tertiary. We find a mix of these sources in most bibliographies, including course reading lists. Let's briefly define these sources. Primary sources are produced by someone directly experiencing or involved in an event. These can include original data or original documents. Secondary sources interpret and/or analyze primary sources. These can include academic books, book chapters, and peer-reviewed journal articles. Tertiary sources are those that compile and/or analyze secondary sources. These can be dictionaries, thesauri, and encyclopedias. They're reference materials. Remember that primary, secondary, and tertiary are not always hard and fast categories. They are a framework to help you understand where information fits along a continuum. Using these working definitions, let's take a look at a course reading list and see if we can identify some types of primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. Let's say we're taking a course on early childhood education for Indigenous children in Canada. The professor gives us a reading list, and we have to use at least one primary, secondary, and tertiary source from this list for our term assignment. So which sources do we choose? Let's take a look at the course reading list source by source. And to identify each type of source, we'll look at each citation. Our first source is entitled The Economics of Early Childhood Education and Care in Canada. From the citation, we see that this is a work that appears in another publication. The word "in" is a big clue, and page numbers are included in the citation along with the name of the publisher. Put this information together, and the citation is telling us that this is a book chapter. Most of us are familiar with books and can identify some of the key characteristics of this type of publication, such as title, author, publisher, table of contents, chapters, and bibliography or reference list. Books have a different editorial process from peer-reviewed journals, but those books published by academic presses, including university presses such as the University of Toronto Press, are considered scholarly. Books can be broad in scope, that is, cover a topic in great depth, so provide an overview of a topic. Sometimes they will include original data and analyses. This makes them a very good starting point when beginning a new research project. Some books, like this one, Recent Perspectives on Early Childhood Education in Canada, are called edited volumes, which means that each chapter is written by a different author or authors. These edited books are useful because they make available a curated collection of chapters organized around a theme or topic. On this reading list, this book chapter can be considered a secondary source. Our second source is entitled Early Learning and Childcare for Children Aged 0 to 5 Years, a Provincial Territorial Portrait. The citation tells us that this publication has a single author and is published by a government department, Statistics Canada. We might think it's a book, but when we open it, we can see that it is a government report that is printed as part of a series. Typically, reports will have an author, title, date of publication, and other publishing information. There may be a standard format for a given series, but no standard format across different publishers. Reports may publish an analysis of original data. In this case, the author appears to be an analyst who works at Statistics Canada, and her analysis seems to be based on original data collected by the department. As such, for this reading list, this document is a primary source. The third source is a book entitled Histories of Canadian Children and Youth. Book citations have the fewest components: author, title, year of publication, and publishing information. And all of this information is contained in this particular citation. According to the publisher, the book is a survey of the history of children, youth, and Canadian families, and the authors use both primary and secondary sources. For this reading list, this book is a secondary source. Looking at the next two sources, we see that the citations contain both familiar and new information. Both Early Childhood Education and Care, Canada's Challenges and Next Steps, and Closing the Education Gap, a case for Aboriginal early childhood education in Canada, a look at the Aboriginal Head Start program, have authors and dates of publication. But these citations also include the titles of the journals, the volumes, the issues, page numbers, and one has a DOI, a digital online identifier. These additional pieces of information tell us that these are academic journal articles. When you read a journal article, you'll see some specific features. The title and the author's name are on the first page, along with the author's credentials, that is, their degree and the institution with which they are affiliated. An abstract usually follows and is a summary that describes what a study is about and what the author has found. Always read the abstract to find out if the article is worth reading, that is, if it's relevant to your research. The references or sources usually appear at the end of the article. Scholarship builds on previous research, so authors reference other research findings. This way, scholarship is an evolving conversation. You often see traces of the peer-reviewed process in an article. You might find information as to when an article was submitted to a publisher, accepted for publication, and when it was published online. Research articles can be primary sources, as they frequently report data and results from original research done by the authors, and this research provides the most recent findings in a field. On this course reading list, these research articles are primary sources. Sources 6 and 7 are similar to previous sources. Source 6 is a government report on education in the Northwest Territories, published by the Office of the Auditor General. It is the same type of source as the Statistics Canada report, that is, a primary source. Source 7 is a secondary source. It looks like an academic journal article except for one detail. The title identifies it as a literature review. Literature reviews are a particular type of academic journal article and a very useful source because the author or authors have written a comprehensive summary of previous research on a topic. If you are beginning a research project, finding a current literature review is a good way to get started. A literature review introduces readers to the key work already done on a particular topic or in a particular field. So a literature review saves readers the time and effort of looking for the information on their own. And source 8 is also familiar. Note the two titles in the citation and the page numbers that are included. This is another book chapter and another secondary source. But what about tertiary sources? In this case, the professor has included all the tertiary sources or reference materials in the section entitled Supplementary Readings. There is a thesaurus, an academic style manual, and 2 encyclopedias. A thesaurus can identify synonyms for key terms or concepts. Many of us use encyclopedias such as Wikipedia to check facts, find out more about a topic, and identify new references. However, you can't cite Wikipedia because the authors are always anonymous. You can cite scholarly encyclopedias such as the 2 encyclopedias on this reading list. The editor and contributors are experts in their fields, and their credentials are provided with the entries they've written. And the Academic Style Guide is the definitive source of information about citing using APA style, so it should be used to ensure that sources are properly cited. This video is about primary, secondary, and tertiary sources that are academic in nature. When you do a search in a search engine or database, you may also find popular sources such as newspapers and magazine articles. When you search online, you may find these types of sources as well as websites that provide relevant and appropriate information. For example, some websites and blogs are written by academic scholars. However, when identifying the academic sources that you can use, look for primary, secondary, and tertiary materials such as books, journal articles, and encyclopedias. This is the end of this video.